my fabulous friends. I hope you're doing well. Well, I'm going to tell you a bit of a story here. Do you know that there has been a historical time when the monarchy almost collapsed? And it wasn't that long ago. It was actually only about 250 years ago. And it was a king who was quite ill, and his son, the Prince of Wales, had to go to Parliament to get a regency done. And that Prince of Wales was quite successful in getting the regency. And then when his father did eventually pass away, he became automatically king. Look at this, the clock agrees with me. That, of course, was Mad King George. Now, the United Kingdom, when King George was regency, he was the first Hanover king born in England, the first Hanover king that spoke English as his first language, and he was George III. And he married, and he was one of the kings that never had any mistresses. And he had 15 children and very few grandchildren from that. I was shocked. I went and looked at all 15 children, and many of them had no issue. One had illegitimate children. But he had two sons that became kings. The Prince of Wales, who was the co-regent, or was the regency, not even co-regency. Mad King George went into basically an insane point in his life, and he was unable to function. And it was right after his youngest daughter died, and it was his favorite daughter. And then the Prince of Wales, who turned out to be King George IV, was the regency. And then when King George eventually died, he became the king. So there is precedence for the Prince of Wales to become king or regent while the king is still alive, if the king is not well enough to do their duty. So we aren't wading into any kind of murky waters here of things that have never been done before. And there's actually a Parliament Act of 1811 called the Regency Act. And actually, William, as Prince of Wales, can activate that act. I'm not sure what they would need at this. Of course, they would need Parliament's permission. I'm sure they would need doctors' reports. Here's the thing. King George III did not necessarily agree to this. It was his son, the Prince of Wales, that said, in order to keep the monarchy afloat, people were angry. King George III lost the Americas. There were other wars going on, and the Prince of Wales at that time was philanderer, a gambler, a drinker, a glutton. He was absolutely a huge, huge man, and people didn't like him. And so the monarchy was in very, very real danger. And that's when the Prince of Wales decided we better go to Parliament and get a regency and get a hold of this monarchy. We can't have Mad King George destroying everything. So, and then this King George IV, because of his ill health, because of how massive he was, what a glutton he was, and a drunkard and a gambler, he passed away with no issue, so no children. So the next brother in line became the king, and he was only king for a couple of years. I believe he was King William, and he died without any children. And then the next brother in line, the King William, he's the one who gave us Queen Victoria. Honestly, for King George III having so many children, The amount of grandchildren he had, I think it was a handful. He had 15 children, and only a couple of them had legitimate children, and one had an illegitimate children. But of course, we know that that cannot be in the line of succession, right, Harry and Meghan? What else was I going to say? So, anyways, there is precedent for the Prince of Wales to take the regency and then become king when the king passes away, and it can be done without the king's permission. That's the Regency Act of Parliament 1811. I'm just going here. Yeah. Oh, it's Prince Edward. Prince Edward. So it was William. It was King William the Fourth, and then he died. He had no legitimate children, but he did have illegitimate children. And then, of course, the next was Charlotte, Princess Royal, and then the next was Prince Edward, Duke of Kent and Strathern, and he had one daughter, Queen, and that daughter became Queen Victoria. And at the time, Queen Victoria was fifth from the throne. So just because everyone's like, "Oh, don't worry about Harry being in the line of succession," as it's alleged that Meghan said, we're only one plane crash away from the throne. So let's find out. Will William activate the Regency, the Parliament Regency Act of 1811? As far as I know, it's still in play, and he doesn't have to ask the king, but Parliament does have to pass it. And the reason it did that because King George was in no mental condition to acknowledge that he could no longer rule and that the monarchy was in danger. So let's ask, is William going to enact the Parliament Regency Act of 1811? Eight of coins. Is he working on it? Is he gathering everything that he needs? Is he ready to become king? Wow. Queen of Cups in reverse. Well, obviously Camilla's not involved in it. Could this be revenge for his mother? Queen of Coins in reverse. There's Granny. Or is that Catherine? That's the thing. Like, once we get so many people playing, I'm going to say that's the Queen. That's Granny. Because they're in reverse. So are these ones that have passed? So his mother and his grandmother. Two of Cups. He's in agreement with other people about it. And the World in reverse. He wouldn't be successful. And it's not a closed book right now. They're still working on that chapter. I'm going to say he's definitely in agreement with some people that it might be something that needs to be enacted. He's ready. Here's Eight of Coins. He's ready to be the regent. So it wouldn't even be a co-regency. It would be regency. End of story. That's what the act is. The Regency Act of 1811 is regency. It's not co-regency. And you don't need the king's permission. And so would he be doing it for his mother? We have to remember, Diana had always said, William will be a better king than Charles. Charles won't be a very, very good king. And is he doing it for his grandmother? because he emulates his grandmother in the royal way of doing everything proper. So I'm going to say he's in agreement with people, but I don't know if it will be successful or not. Three of Coins in reverse. He doesn't really have anybody on his side right now, or there's no real plans. This also could be a bit of procrastination, maybe waiting until it gets to a point that nobody can argue with him. But right now, there's no real plans to go ahead. The Hermit in reverse, they're worried about Harry. Definitely worried about Harry. How would Harry respond? How would Harry act? This also could be to get rid of Harry. Right? Because if William becomes regent, if the Prince of Wales is now the regent, bye-bye, Harry. Like, we know that's going to happen. Wow, death in reverse. Okay, I'm going to say that no, William will not invoke this. He's aware of it. He's ready to be king, but he's actually going to wait until it is his turn. Yeah, Two of Wands on top of the Three of Coins in reverse. I'm going to say that he has it in his back pocket. Right now, today, if you were to ask him, he'd say no, absolutely not. We'll wait till everything's in perfect order. But he's keeping it at the back of his mind. He's watching, you know, he's aware of it. Queen of Swords in reverse. Wow, that because the Queen of Swords is contracts and legal agreements, and this would be undoing some of those agreements, legal agreements. You know, he wouldn't, I don't think he would hesitate if it came down to it. If it came down to it. The Fool. The Fool. An Ace of Swords. Okay, I'm going to say that William is ready to be king. He knows that he can do this regency. He's well aware of it. Is the king well aware of it? Probably. I think if it came to shove, I think he would think of it here with this Queen of Swords in reverse. Right now, he's going to let nature take its course, but he's keeping it in his back pocket. And everybody might think this is, fresh and new, that he's doing all of this, and may not realize that this rule is over 200 years old. Ace of Swords, absolutely he will. He will defend the crown. He will do it for the crown. High Priestess, Five of Cups in reverse, the King of Cups in reverse, and the Nine of Swords, and the Tower. Yes, if the king starts to lose his mind, if it starts to affect his mental ability, yes, William will activate it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's already kind of in talks with this High Priestess, like perhaps talking to his doctor, asking a few trusted advisors, some equerries to keep their eye on his father, and watching for any kind of mental strain. I don't think that William is looking for any kind of physical strain. So, for example, the king's in a wheelchair, he's walking with a cane, or now he's in a wheelchair, or because we have to remember the queen at the end canceled quite a few of her on her diary. She had to reschedule or outright cancel because of mobility issues. So William's not looking at that mobility issues. William's looking at how's his mental state. And this goes back to that reading I did about the king's brain or the king's mental health, that I feel that the cancer may have gone into his brain, or he's developed some kind of dementia or something like that. The cards keep telling us that. And these cards actually confirm that. Here's the King of Cups in reverse. Here's the Nine of Swords. The Five of Cups upright or in reverse. I think that they're watching his mental health. And here's the Tower here too. If something happens to Charles' mental health, again, not his physical health, if he's in a wheelchair, that's fine. His mental health, I think William will step in, and uh, I think Charles will be shocked. I really do. I think everybody will be shocked. Maybe a lot of people don't realize this about the Regency Act of 1811. When the Prince of Wales took over his father, Mad King George, without his father's permission, but with it has to be an act through Parliament. It has to be voted through the Parliament. So I wouldn't be surprised. So there's no plans right now at all. Right now, the plans are let nature take its course, right? But I think there's secret talks going on behind that if it does get to a point, and that he does have to activate that. Look at that King of Swords in reverse. William will be ruthless because here's the Five of Swords. He has to save the monarchy. He has to. Two of Swords, Nine of Coins in reverse, and Page of Wands. Yeah, I think that's what William will act like the Queen would, and do what's best for the crown, do what's best for the monarchy, do what's best for the firm, not necessarily his father. It's a decision he doesn't really want to make, but he knows he might have to one day make that announcement. I think it's something that Catherine doesn't want, but I think William will be ruthless if he has to. He's right here showing up. He will be ruthless, and he'll sever the king from responsibilities, and Charles won't see it coming, and neither will we. Thank you very much for watching. Please take good care. See you online. Bye for now.